with, and also another character, Donald Cammell, who went on to make the film Performance, is in this as well. Mick Jagger did some music for us as well, if I remember. But it's a pretty crude home movie,
yeah,
if I remember.
Hard to watch.
But no, all these elements were pulled in for the whole Manson thing, So Kenneth Anger, possible Satanist, well, then that means Manson's a Satanist. It's the spirit of the time that anything goes, and we'll just drag it in. I mean, I believe Anger was terrified when the Manson thing broke, and he tried to destroy one of the films with Beausoleil, and I mean, he took him onto the desert and tried to destroy the negatives and stuff. I mean, it spooked a lot of people out, this story.
Did you actually talk to Anger?
No, I didn't. I think I sent him an email, and I got some strange thing back. I think he's not really talking about. He's never really talked about Manson at all. I think he's absolutely the whole Manson episode is something which even he probably couldn't envisage in his head.
Now, after the murders, one of the stories out there is that Polanski suspected John Phillips, Papa Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas. He suspected that he was involved, and he actually went and broke into his house looking for a copy of his handwriting to compare with the writing on the wall. What did you find in your investigation of that?
Well, he actually went further. He was putting down, he was trying to get samples of DNA and blood and everything in the car. I mean, the thing was that there's other weird stuff here as well, which, being Hollywood and being the 60s, there was a lot of people involved with wife swapping and stuff, not any great thing, but I mean, and paranoias were enormous. I mean, Polanski was possibly one of the worst. He was shagging anything that moved everywhere, so I think in his heightened state, for some reason, he imagined John Phillips, who was part of that crowd with the connection with, is it Mama Cass Elliot, whose Mama Cass Elliot's sort of personal drug-dealing boyfriend had had visited Cielo Drive, and so they were all part of the same community, but he had a fascination with John Phillips for some strange reason. And he definitely went to the house, and he definitely was searching for bits of information, as I say, to the point of breaking into the house and into his car, looking for some sort of clues. But that's probably a height of his desperation at that point.
And then what do you make of Robert Evans and Jack Nicholson showing up, supposedly going to the house and cleaning up? What do you make of that?
I didn't find any evidence to support that at all.
Oh, really?
The Polanski house, Cielo Drive?
Yeah. I know. Robert Evans talks about it. Robert Evans himself says he said he was supposed to be babysitting Sharon Tate that night and keeping an eye on her for Polanski. And he talks about it in one of his films, in one of his interviews.
Yeah. You'd be interested to know that I found about 20 or 30 people supposed to be at the house that night.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I mean, so many of them, and people have dined out on this story. I mean, the reality was that there was no party that night apart from the 4 people who were murdered. It's. I mean, maybe people in their heads thought that they were going to go around there, but no, and they had plenty of opportunity to go around there as well, because, as I say, the party of Jay Sebring and Wojciech Rakowski, Abigail Folger, and Sharon Tate, they went into town earlier that night for dinner, and so no, again, it's all part of the myth. I don't believe it personally.
Okay.
Why would you anyway? And also, why would you want to claim that you were invited and never went? Or I mean, that's just.
Well, like you said, a lot of people say that, but Robert Evans himself says that he went there with Jack Nicholson to clean up the blood before Polanski came home. And it's interesting because Evans later on was involved in those Cotton Club murders, the murder of Roy Radin, who was involved in the Son of Sam cult in New York. And the hitman in that case, who's convicted in prison, was Bill Menser, who was also the bodyguard for Papa Phillips and for Mama Cass Phillips. Well,
it doesn't ring true because the timeline of the events of the murder and the discovery, the house was immediately a crime scene, and it was actually roped off by police until Polanski came back. So how they got through that and cleaned up this story, I know, which is true, which is bizarre, is that actually it was Sharon Tate's father and Roman Polanski who actually had to clean up the blood, and that's well documented. And actually even more upsetting is that they were sued by the landlord of the property for the damage to the property and new carpet. So I don't believe that for a minute.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time. In fact, we only got like a couple of minutes.
Okay.
What do you want to leave us with?
The Manson family is largely a mythological invention. I strongly believe that if Sharon Tate wasn't involved in this case, that we wouldn't be talking about this. This would just be a series of pretty ugly murders. The one interesting thing is that the Mansons sort of claim for some sort of success in a perverse way has been realized. He probably is the world's most famous living criminal. He's outlived everyone, you know. So he got the celebrity of some sort that he wanted, but equally, you know, I think that if you strip this story away and take the hysteria out of it, it's just a mediocre busker with influence over teenagers. The other thing which, you know, is never really been documented is that no one of Manson's age really wanted anything to do with him. You know, he's one of those characters who really, you know, he'd been in prison half of his life. So, in a sense, it was a 32, 33-year-old man and his mind was 16, 17. So, in a sense, I think he was quite immature. But, you know, once you throw celebrity into this, once you throw Hollywood into it, let's throw in the Beach Boys, the Beatles, let's throw Satan in, let's throw everything in. Then it elevates it to this crime of the century. But you take out some of those elements, and you're just left with another grubby murder, which happens in LA every single day. It's no different. The 60s wraps everything up in a golden glow. You know, if it happened in the 80s, it wouldn't have the same glow as this, you know. We had Woodstock just before, you know, the Beatles, we had Summer of Love, you know, all those Technicolor moments. And then Manson comes along at the end, you know, it's like a pantomime. It's like the baddie turns up and ruins it all. And then after Manson, you have Altamont, you know, the festival in San Francisco, which really, you know, that again was another curtain puller over the decade. This will all, in the next 20 or 30 years, when all the original people are not with us, it will all go largely into mythology. It'll just be a story which will be regurgitated and rewritten and embellished, and no one around to check it. And it will become folklore. And when you have folklore, then, you know, the sky's the limit. It becomes. So, you know, it's just that. My attempt was just try and rationalize it. Try and make some sense out of it, so that perhaps people in the future might go, do you know, it wasn't as fantastic in the literal sense of the word as it's been made out. You know, it was just a pretty grubby scenario where a lot of people got hurt badly and made some very bad choices. So that's my take.
Simon Wells, author of Charles Manson Coming Down Fast. Once again, Simon, I can't thank you enough, man, for because, you know, making time for me today at the last minute, too. And, you know, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Good night. Okay, they got Simon Wells. Interesting take on the Charles Manson story. Charles Manson Coming Down Fast, friends with Timothy Wiley. What do we open up here? Okay, little can of worms there. Anyway, if you like this show, check out OppermanReport.com. What the heck is that? OppermanReport.com. And I'm working on a special, guys, right now for the members section, where if you want to sign up for a year, I'll give you 13 months for $65. We got robbed. They stole a very important camera that we've been using here, me and Victoria, in the house. So I'm trying to raise money over the weekend here to try and raise some funds to replace her camera for her. It was only a couple $100, but if you can become a member, $65, 13 months. 13 months, the mark of the beast, in honor of Kenneth Anger. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, Simon Wells, Charles Manson Coming Down Fast, and I really do, all kidding aside, want to thank Simon Wells for making time for me, because it was a real scramble to fill up time this week. And I contacted a bunch of people, and it turned out I did twice as many shows as I needed to do. But Simon Wells is a very kind man to make time for me. I know it's very late over there in the UK as we're filming this, recording this right now. So thank you so much, Simon Wells. Charles Manson, coming down fast. OppermanReport.com is where the member section is. And you want to get a special deal up there.